Welcome to the Explainer. We all use our computers to get stuff done, right? But what happens when the very operating system you're using seems to be working against you? Today, we're digging into a really provocative piece from the Register that argues Windows 11 is just full of these tiny but infuriating microaggressions that are basically designed to wreck your focus. And the article kicks off with this really powerful idea. The argument is that all those frustrations you feel with Windows, well, they aren't coming from some virus you downloaded. Nope. The threat is built right into the system itself. And this, right here, is the big question the article makes you ask yourself. It really pushes this idea that the software we depend on every single day might not actually have our best interests at heart. So let's look at the first piece of this puzzle, something the author calls the productivity paradox. So the author starts by pointing out this huge contradiction. They compare using modern software not to a smooth, productive experience, but to, and I love this phrase, a modern-day Viking raid on your attention. Think about it. On one hand, you have Microsoft's marketing, which is all about workflow, productivity, and enablement. But then there's the reality of using it. The article claims it feels more like, and I'm quoting here, plunder-hungry Viking raids. Basically, an ADHD horror show that's just built to distract you and pull you in. So how do we even begin to label this problem? This is where things get really interesting. The article takes a word we all know from cybersecurity and, pretty controversially, applies it directly to Windows. The author asks this brilliant question. If you define malware by what it does, intrusive pop-ups, unwanted ads, constantly spying on you and sending that data somewhere else, then doesn't some of the stuff happening inside Windows 11 start to fit that description? It's a really bold claim. Basically saying the enemy isn't outside your PC, it is your PC. And this is what that so-called malware-like behavior actually feels like day to day. It's that low-level constant annoyance. It's the pop-up trying to sell you on another Microsoft product. It's you carefully turning off a feature only to have it mysteriously turn itself back on after the next update. And of course, it's that relentless push for new AI features like recall, which, let's be honest, feels a lot like constant monitoring. Okay, so if the problem is so clear to so many users, why don't we just fix it? Well, as the article points out, it turns out there are some pretty major roadblocks stopping the average person from actually taking back control of their own computer. Yeah, trying to fix this stuff on your own is a nightmare. You go online, you find a guide, and suddenly you're supposed to dive deep into the Windows registry, which is absolutely the last thing you want, Arnold from accounts trying to do. And even if you pull it off, you might make your system unstable. The worst part? Your fix is probably useless the second Microsoft pushes out another update. All right, so manual fixes are out. What about those third-party debloater tools? The article argues they're a whole other can of worms. A lot of them are just a minefield of sketchy software, basically malware pretending to be the cure. And the ones that are trustworthy, they're usually on sites like GitHub, looking super intimidating to anyone who isn't already a member of the, quote, tech priesthood. So after laying out the problem and shooting down all the current fixes, the article pivots. And I love this. It doesn't just complain. It actually starts to design a solution. It imagines what the perfect Windows detox tool would need to be. So what's the DNA of this dream tool? Well, for starters, it's gotta be fully automated, so you don't need a PhD to use it. It absolutely needs a solid chain of trust, which probably means being open source so everyone can see what it's doing. It has to be updated constantly to keep up with Microsoft's changes, look professional, be easy to use, but still let power users tweak things. It's a pretty tall order for sure. And here's the kicker. The goal isn't just to clean up your computer once. According to the author, the real goal is to start a war of attrition. The idea is to make Microsoft's endless campaign to distract you and treat you like you don't know what you're doing so completely ineffective that it becomes a total waste of their time and money. And that leads us to the final, and honestly, the most brilliant part of this whole argument. If this tool is the weapon, who on earth would build it and why? The answer, the author says, is a FOSS Trojan horse. At first, this sounds completely backwards, right? Why would a competitor, let's say a big Linux project like Ubuntu, spend its precious time and energy fixing its #1 rival? Well, the article lays out a very clear and very clever strategic reason. The tool itself would be a Trojan horse. See, by offering a fix for Windows, free and open source software, or FOSS, gets its foot in the door inside big corporate IT departments. It would be a living, breathing demonstration of what user-focused software actually looks like. The whole point is to annoy Microsoft into changing its ways, to solve a problem that Microsoft won't solve itself, and maybe, just maybe, create what the author calls a commercially painful tipping point. And to wrap it all up, the author pulls out this ancient proverb. The idea is that you can sometimes defeat your enemy by being nice to them. In this case, by fixing their own product for free in a very public way that kind of shames them and totally undermines their business model. And that is the real takeaway from all of this. The article's conclusion is that a real cure for Windows isn't just going to be handed to us by Microsoft. No, it's only going to happen when the community of users, armed with the right tools, makes the current situation too painful for the company to ignore. And the article leaves us with this final provocative thought, bringing the whole coals of fire idea full circle. It is well past time to be nice to Microsoft. Don't forget the coal. It really leaves you wondering, what does it actually take to make a giant company like that change its course? Thanks for joining us for this explainer.